Good morning, everyone. I think I'm live. I think that's what's happening. I'm Chastity Williams. I'm the Outreach Program Manager here at Montgomery County Women's Center. And for today's coffee talk, I wanted to hop on and talk a little bit about alcohol and drug facilitated sexual assault. So oftentimes when we talk about drug facilitated sexual assault, people think of things like GHB, like the whole like roofie kind of thing, watch your drink, that whole sort of mentality, somebody's going to slip something into your drink. But what people often don't know is that alcohol is the number one drug used in drug facilitated sexual assaults. We often don't think about alcohol as a drug in that way or in that capacity. But when we're talking about these types of assaults, alcohol is most commonly used for a few different reasons. One of the biggest reasons is because it's so easily available. You can go into Walmart, you can go into the gas station. It doesn't really take much to find alcohol. Even when our programs go into schools, high schools, junior highs, we have kiddos telling us, yeah, it's not difficult to get alcohol. Like if you want it, you can get it. Either somebody's parent will provide it for you, or somebody has an older sibling. Like if you want the alcohol, you can get it because it's so readily available. And because of that, we see that alcohol is used pretty frequently in drug facilitated sexual assaults. Um, it's a most common weapon used to facilitate those assaults because offenders know how it impacts the victim. It leaves people very vulnerable. It can affect their memory, it can impair their judgment and their physical abilities, especially when you think about younger people specifically who maybe have not had a lot of experience with alcohol, and so their capacity or their limitations are skewed. They don't really have a good judgment about how alcohol affects them or how many drinks can affect them in a negative way. And so, binge drinking is another one. We see that a lot in college, where people are, binge drinking is part of the college experience for a lot of people. And, you'll hear people say, like, oh, we're going to drink until we black out tonight. That is a common, like, state of mind for people when they're going out. Does that make it wrong? Not necessarily. If they're of age and that's, they're wanting to have fun, that's totally fine. I get that. But you have to have limitations. You have to have an understanding of what can happen in these situations if you don't have a good support system around you. And even if you have a good support system around you, I've had clients that I've worked with that have, they thought that they had really good support systems around them, and so they were a little bit more relaxed in how they approached binge drinking. And unfortunately, those people didn't have their best interest in mind, and so they took advantage of that person, of that individual, and they used that person's drinking to the point of blacking out against them, and they were able to assault them, and the person have no memory or recollection of it until they saw videos or they read email exchanges, or text messages between people talking about the assault. So that's just the reality of what can happen when you are in that situation and you're drinking to the point that you don't know your capacity or your limitations. Does that put the blame on the victim? Absolutely not. That is just to say that this is part of the culture, and people who want to perpetrate understand that might be the way that some people are going out, and that might be the mind frame of some people when they're at the bar or when they're at a party or whatever it might be. And so they're looking for those people, looking for that vulnerability so that they can swoop in and take advantage of the situation. Because again, it leaves people with a lot of just lowered or impaired judgment or ability to like really understand the circumstances that they're in. Um, alcohol really is a perfect weapon in a very unique way for abusers because um, even with law enforcement, like they don't have, a lot of times they don't have a good understanding of how many drinks did that person have, where were they at, where did they go. It can allow, people to be moved from situation to situation and from location to location and have no memory of it. And so it can make prosecuting those types of cases really difficult for law enforcement. And so abusers know that, and they're looking for that. We also, when we talk about drug and alcohol facilitated abuse, I think it's important to understand that it's not always just using because they want to use. I've had a lot of clients talk to me about like bonding and how drugs or alcohol can bond the relationship. And that's not just for sexual abuse. That can also be for domestic violence situations where you have these clients who are saying to you, I've never used drugs before, I never really drank, but every time my partner would drink or my partner would use, that's when the abuse would get really bad. And so in my mind, I just thought, well, if I use too, then it will make it not so bad. I'll be able to endure the physical abuse a little bit better. I'll be able to maybe it'll like bond us enough to where the abuse doesn't even happen. Things like that. And so there's this idea that using together or drinking together can make you closer as a couple. And in reality, it just escalates the situation because then we see a lot of times like mamas who are using and with their partner to bond. That's when CPS a lot of times gets involved. Kiddos get removed from the situation, and these are people who have never really had any experience with drugs prior to that or heavy drinking prior to that. So that's, we kind of see an increase of services having to step in and really utilize their abilities to remove children from the situation because of the drug or alcohol increase because of the relationship. I've had clients that I've worked with who have told me, I never used drugs before ever in my life, but he started using meth, and so as a result, I started using meth because I thought that it would bring us closer together. I thought that it would help me endure the abuse a little bit better, and it didn't. And instead, my kids got removed, and now I have a drug problem, and I don't have my kids, so I need help. So it can lead to a lot of different long-term issues because unfortunately, once CPS is involved, it's very challenging to get your kids back. There are a lot of hoops that you have to jump through that can make people really anxious. It can be very overwhelming, and in turn, it can lead to people having long-term drug usage because it just seems so overwhelming that they just give up. So we see a lot of that too with the clients that we work with sometimes. So I think that is everything on my little checklist to cover today. If you have any questions about any of the things that we talk about in the coffee talks, please feel free to use the chat section, comment below, and we are happy to answer any questions that you might have. If you want more information about alcohol and drug facilitated assault, statistics and things like that, feel free to reach out to us through message or through the comment section, and we'll be happy to give you some more information. We also offer some trainings that really look at these topics in a deeper way, longer than just a 10-minute quick video, where we're able to like really talk about what sexual assault looks like. And so if that's something that you're interested in, definitely reach out to us, let us know, and we can try to help set you up with a training session. I hope everyone has an awesome Wednesday and that you learned something this morning.